Welcome back to another episode of the ABLAZIN Gospel Show. I'm your host, Pastor V, and coming to you live with none other than CHAZ HOFLER. We'll be talking about dreaming big and keeping the dream alive. Clearly, this whole month we've been focusing on that, and we're just excited to have this young man on our show today. So without further ado, CHAZ, why don't you introduce yourself to our family?
What's up, everybody? My name is CHAZ HOFLER. Originally from Brooklyn, New York. And I met Barney back. I actually met him through someone, and we were connected before we actually met. But I lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma, went to Bible college in Tulsa, Broken Arrow area. And I met someone out there, and she knew what I was doing with the music. And she said, "Yo, you need to meet Barney." And at that time, I think he had a 918 number, but I think you had moved back to the East Coast. And my first event back on the East Coast was with Barney, and we just been connected since then. But CHAZ HOFLER, got a clothing brand out, Keep the Dream Alive, Dream Alive LLC. Got a message called Gracious that I've been pushing, and I've been doing extremely well. Just a concept, just trying to flip that racist word on his head and trying to bring unity instead of division. Just released an album, Keep the Dream Alive. But yeah, that sums it up right there.
Man, that's beautiful, bro. I mean, you know, it's funny because all month we've been focusing on dreaming big. And so I thought about my man. I said, look, this dude got a whole brand around keeping the dream alive. So this was the perfect opportunity to have CHAZ just come and bless us, man. This guy's an awesome musician. For those of you that heard, he's from BK, you know, and so you know there's nothing but flavor coming out of New York, right? And I'm so you know we just had to bring the brother in, man. We're going to jump right into the conversation, CHAZ, talking about dreaming big. But before we do so, I want to play the first track that I got here that you put out called Keep the Dream Alive, because quite frankly, we got a lot of folks out there who in this season of their life, they're losing hope in their dream, they're losing hope in their opportunity, they're losing hope in what God has called them to do. And I think it's our responsibility as believers and entrepreneurs and just men of the faith, man, you know, to be the ones who will brandish this hope and brandish this life that God has given us to live in this earth. So we're going to play this first track, man, Keep the Dream Alive, and hopefully folks will bop their heads to it, and then we'll jump into our conversation. And then after that, you tell me what inspired this thing too. So folks, listen up. Keep the dream alive, Mr. CHAZ HOFLER.
Keep the dream alive. Keep the dream alive. Keep the dream alive. Just run. Keep the child alive. Keep the dream alive.
Bit by the bug at a young age. Skip the article inside, I want the front page. Smart guys finish last, I want a dumb wage. About 15K when I'm on stage, yeah. All screaming my name. You can keep the narcotic, I'm addicted to fame. I want the chains, give me the watches with big diamonds. My songs are offensive, but sir, I'm just rhyming. Charts I'm climbing, hope you not finding the me that's really inside. See, God gave me a dream from the start, but instead of doing my part, it's nightmares. Why this dream I hide? What a fool. Living life with no rules. Building this house with no tools. Mine through the dirt, and I pray that you find jewels. Without God's dream, you lose. Homeboy, you gotta.
Keep the dream alive. Keep the dream alive.
Homeboy, you gotta.
Keep the dream alive. Keep the child alive.
Young lady gotta.
Keep the child alive. Keep the dream alive.
Young king gotta.
Woke up from an email from Dre Murray. Okay. So you gotta trust that process, you can't worry. Right. You know that wine take time and it ain't hurry. True. You gotta keep that dream alive. You can't bury what God gave you. Divine enablement defines grace. Now you got the grace, you gotta exercise faith. And with the faith, you gotta demonstrate love. And with the love, you can penetrate anything. And with the grind, you can generate a buzz. Last but not least, keep sending prayers up. Not trying to front like I made a trust believe that everything I'm saying, I am saying it's to me. That's how the visionaries roll. Be all the way committed to your goals. If it all was a crumble and you ain't left ashamed, then the dream that you chasing ain't a big enough dream. What up?
Keep the dream alive. Just rhyming. Keep the child alive. Keep the dream alive. Just rhyming. Keep the dream alive. Keep the dream alive. Just rhyming. Keep the child alive. Keep the dream alive. Just rhyming. Keep the dream alive.
Man, that thing is all fire, my man. All fire. Keep the dream alive. This is the ABLAZIN Gospel Show, people. And you best believe it. Today we're talking about dreaming big. And that track, I heard Dre Murray on there, man. Tell me about that, bro. How y'all work that out?
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, I'm going to go back. It's a nice little story, cool story with it. I remember back when I was living in Tulsa, I was in Bible college. And I was out pushing my CDs. And I was at the mall. And I had ran into, this is around the time when Lecrae dropped that Church Clothes, the first one.
Right.
And so I had been bumping that, listening to it. And so I'm at the mall, and I run into a guy. His name was Lester Shaw. And he's like, yeah, my son, he was on Lecrae's Church Clothes album. So I'm like, word? I'm like, what's his name? He said his name is L2. And I was like, wow. I said, I just listened to the song. You know what I mean? So L2, he's kind of like an R&B artist, but he was on the song with Lecrae. Or whatever. And so I was like, yo, man. So I gave him the CD, and I was like, yo, try to, connect me. Maybe we could, work something out. But it didn't work out that way. But I could say about 15 minutes after that, I ran into another cat, and he said, yo, man, I like what you're doing. He was like, yo, my brother-in-law was on Lecrae's Church Clothes album that he just released. I'm like, wow. I just met a guy who said his son was on it, named L2. And then he was like, yeah. I'm like, who's your brother-in-law? He said, Dre Murray.
Wow.
I'm like, what? He was like, yeah. He's like, that's my sister's husband. So I was like, yo. So I was telling him what had just happened. And he was just like, yo, man, you on the right path, man. You're like you're getting close to something.
Right.
So I had been wanting to meet Dre Murray since then, since meeting his brother-in-law. And it just so happened that Dre had did like kind of like a submission thing where submit a song.
Yeah, I remember that actually.
Yeah, and like he kind of like was trying to put together like this compilation project, and I was one of the people that got picked. And I actually see the song you just played is actually the remix to the original one. I sent him the original one. Okay. And he was like, "Yo, man, I really like it. I want to be a part of it." And so that's how that came about. And so, he reached out to me, and I told him, I sent him the beat or whatever. And what I wanted to do, being that he wanted to be a part of it, I said I want to remix it. So I ended up getting a guy to kind of like put some scratches and some mixing in there to kind of mix, so it won't sound identical to the first song. Right. And we remixed it, man, and that's how that worked out. But it was like a dream come true in a sense, because I had been wanting to work with Drake, since I had met his brother-in-law. Right. So it just kind of worked out. Man, so that's why I was saying in the song, I woke up from an email from Dre Murray. You got to trust that process. You can't worry. You know what I mean?
It's all about that process, man. And it's funny because, I recently got to do, on my new album I'm getting ready to put out, I was able to, just God, man. When God began to connect the kingdom brethren together, it's amazing. I was able to get, R. Swift, he featured on one of my new joints. And so it's the same deal, man. Just, God just providentially just connecting us, man. It's all about the kingdom when it comes to these dreams and, the fulfillment of what God desires. But that thing is hot. I love it. And we're going to play the original as well, before we wrap up into the real conversation. Real quick, man, I'm getting ready to play this next track called Thou Art in Me. Tell us a little bit about that before we play it.
That joint, man, was like, it was one of them tracks that, like, when I heard it, it was different. It wasn't like my typical type beat, but I really enjoyed the drums in it, and it just kind of, it was a little abstract. So I wanted to create something a little abstract, and that song was actually featuring another brother of mine, Paris. We went to Bible college together. Speaking of it, from Paris careers, he's doing this thing right now. He was like a Rapzilla freshman a couple of years ago, and he's kind of doing big things for the kingdom. But I reached out to him and was like, "Yo, man, I gotta get you on the track." And you know, he kind of did the hook. But it was just me wanting to write something that was a little bit abstract and talking about spiritual things and kind of connecting it. You just gotta kind of hear the track, you know what I mean? It's very poetic and very metaphorical.
I love it. Yeah, you rocking with the best today on the ABLAZIN Gospel Show, and we're getting ready to listen to "Thou Art in Me" by none other than CHAZ HOFLER.
Yeah, right, yeah, right.
Picasso remarks and words like the flow from the promised land. Carving my future, the sculpture harder in time.
Right.
Music flow from the other hand, you all on my mind. Inside, the art is inside.
Right.
Picasso remarks and words like the flow from the promised land. Carving my future, the sculpture harder in time. Music flow from the other hand, you all on my mind. Inside, the art is inside.
I'm an artist of sound. I paint my rhymes on the canvas, carve my heart in the tablets, drawn parchments, all the graphics, sign my name in italics. I mix my words on the palette, hung on the wall in the palace, by a client in Paris. From annoying soil stains to anointing all you paintings, them begonias don't toil you, but they more than royal raiment. Solomon, solar man, clothed inside of soil casings, earthen vessels, precious treasures with the royal faces. Mosaic, piece by piece together, don't break it, we just be sculptors of the culture, trying to cultivate the orchard. Yes, we orchestrate the pulpit while we overthrow the vultures. Right.
Picasso remarks and words like the flow from the promised land. Carving my future, the sculpture harder in time. Music flow from the other hand, you all on my mind. Inside, the art is inside. Paint Picasso remarks and words like the flow from the promised land. Carving my future, the sculpture harder in time. Music flow from the other hand, you all on my mind. Inside, the art is inside.
The music becomes the music, the music becomes museums. Planting some concrete poetry, catch it growing through cement. Leave it, that's just papyrus. Scrolls to palm pilots. I write my songs with a stylus. I write my wrong with the Midas. Touch green thumb. V54 from the beanstalk. These giants don't know jack about a slingshot. To the Philistine, you know how to Philistines rock. Till you run through that temple like a sheep rock. My heart is a beatbox in sync with my eardrum. Beside an internal organ, just building my band up. From my core to my vocal cords, the mic to the multitude. Just more than just what it is, whatever I mold it to.
Picasso remarks and words like the flow from the promised land. Carving my future, the sculpture harder in time. Music flow from the other hand, you all on my mind. Inside, the art is inside. Paint Picasso remarks and words like the flow from the promised land. Carving my future, the sculpture harder in time. Music flow from the other hand, you all on my mind. Inside, the art is inside. Inside, the art is inside.
Man, I like that track, bro. Tell us about this track right here, man. Who produced that joint?
It's produced by Tone Jones, man.
Tone Jones, yeah, I like
One of the greatest.
Look, all you that just joined us here, this is the ABLAZIN Gospel Show, and this is Pastor V. Got a special guest today, CHAZ HOFLER, and you just heard 2 tracks so far from this brother, man. I'm talking about some amazing music, family. Amazing music. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Now, the concept, the art in me. I mean, I heard some other things in there. How does the hook go, fam? How does that hook go?
The hook go, he says, paint Picasso, I'm awesome. Words like the flow from the promised land. Carving my future, the sculpture hardened in time. Music flow from the other hand, you all on my mind. Inside, the art is inside. And so, like, I kind of wanted to play on words with, that art in me, because that's kind of like old English.
Yeah.
God being in me, thou art with me, or thou art in me. but also speaking of, you know, his art was within me. You know what I'm saying? I'm creating, and so that's why I kind of got real creative with the wordplay. You know, my heart is a beatbox in sync with my eardrums, beside an internal organ, just building my band up. You know what I mean? Like, just wanted to play with the wordplay and have fun with lyrics and concepts. I also wanted to merge art with Bible. You know what I mean? Like, when I speak of, I was like mosaic, you know, mosaic speaking of, you know, things pertaining to Moses, but also mosaic is also a type of art. You know what I mean? Right. And this type of art, you know, piece by piece together, don't break it. You know what I mean? And so I just wanted to get, like, you know, I took art and took a little bit of fable. Like, I talked about, you know, what is my man? Well, I talked about David and the giant, but I also talked about what's his name? James and Jack and the Giant Beanstalk, and how he defeated a giant in that book, but also David defeated the giant. So I kind of merged, you know, these giants don't know jack about a slingshot. You know what I mean? And to the Philistines, you know how the Philistines rock. You run through the temple like a sheetrock, and I kind of connected that with, you know, well, I connected it from Jack and the Giant Beanstalk to David, but also Samson defeated the Philistines. You know what I mean? So you know, till a Philistine, you know how the Philistines rock, and David defeated the Philistines with a rock, and you know, going through the Goliath's temple. You know, David used a slingshot and shipped a rock to Goliath's temple.
You hurting him, baby. You hurting him.
but Samson defeated the Philistines by destroying their temple.
That's right.
You know, in the Bible.
That's right.
And so both times the temple was brought the Philistines down.
I mean, that is deep, family. I really I get it, man. You literally, I saw a movie just now. Like, you connected it all across. You know what I mean? Like, and it's funny because that's how the Holy Spirit works. You know, all scripture is God-breathed, and everything connects from point to point, from Old Testament to New Testament, everything pointed in one direction. So, you know that. You know it's godly inspiration when you can take just that and just merge all of the thoughts and make that thing connect. So, man, that is truly thy art is in me type stuff right there. I appreciate that one right there. Look, man, let's get to this next track. You got called Champion. Tell us about that before we play it real quick.
Man, it was actually birthed from a guy. He had a book coming out called The Champion's DNA, and he had got with me and asked me to write like a soundtrack for the book. And this was like a couple years ago, man. And so, you know, I just kind of threw that song on the album, but it's just about, I basically sat with him and we had a meeting, and I basically took a lot of the concepts and the things he talked to me about and the things that registered with me, and I just, you know, put it together in lyric form, you know, to kind of, you know, help push the book. And so, man, you know, we all have that champion DNA, you know, and it's because of Christ, you know what I mean? He's the true champion. And now, you know, we're joint heirs with the one true champion.
So we're going to talk about this champion's DNA. Like I said before, this is the ABLAZIN Gospel Show. We got CHAZ HOFLER on here just giving it to y'all today. So listen up, good people. Champion DNA. Here we go.
Champion's DNA.
I got that champion.
I got it. I've been had it. It's been in me. Let's get at it. Baby, let's talk. And more action. You can't fake it. It's all passion. And I got it. I've been had it. It's been in me. Let's get at it. Baby, let's talk. And more action. You can't fake it. It's all passion. New levels, tools set up the settle. Too clever to let all these new endeavors to sever. I look myself in the mirror, staring at something special. Ready for this adventure, I'm packing enough potential. Opportunities knocking, I'm on my way to the door. Nothing like being sure when you feel it down in your core. Yes, I'm destined for more. Yes, I'm ready to soar from the edge of my leap of faith. Yes, that's what legends are born. See, I'm the eagle that was raised amongst the chickens, clucking, picking, just to fit in with them other chickens. Until something clicked, I'll always notice something different about me. They would doubt me, say I'm nothing. I'm just weird with long wings, forget about it. Never mind them, I'm just trying to go beyond the finish line. Every time I saw an eagle fly, I identify inside. I got a glimpse, tapped in my inner voice. It won't happen by outer chance, it's gonna happen by inner choice. I got it, I've been had it. It's been in me, let's get at it. Baby, let's talk it, and more action. You can't fake it, it's all passion. And I got it, I've been had it. It's been in me, let's get at it. Baby, let's talk it, and more action. You can't fake it, it's all passion. Game changer, walking in great favor, hanging with great thinkers, avoiding the naysayers. I wake up and say my prayers each day that God give us. Then I'm off to get it and grind like dry dentures while minding my business. I promise I'm not interested in who did what, when, where, and why they did it. And I'm focused, can't afford not to be an explorer. Life is an expedition, flex your wings and just see you were born to win. What you need is all within. All depends on if you really wanna win. Get on it then, discipline. Take a look into that mirror once again. That's the toughest person you will ever have to war against. You gotta punch a success ticket with confidence, optimism, tenacity, and enthusiasm through the challenge. Do it matter? Yes it does. So lift your head and rejoice, cause it won't happen by luck, it's gonna happen by choice.
One very important thing I have come to recognize in my own life, and that there is nothing more powerful than a made-up mind. The moment you decide differently, your reality can change instantly. The moment you decide that living your life on one level is no longer good enough, it will change.
I got it, I've been had it. It's been in me, let's get at it. Baby, let's talk it, and more action. You can't fake it, it's all passion. And I got it, I've been had it. It's been in me, let's get at it. Baby, let's talk it, and more action. You can't fake it, it's all passion.
You do have a power. It is impossible to dream it without the capacity to bring it about. In spite of what you have been conditioned to believe, you were not born to lose. You were born to win in every which way.
Man, I'm getting ready to run out here in this snow, right? And I'm gonna just get a banner and just wave that thing through the neighborhood, bro. I got that champion. That's an anthem for, man. When you put the video out for this thing, man, 'cause, you know, I don't know if you recall the Man Up single that they did, that Lecrae and them did, where they had that they were marching through the streets and it just looked like a call to action. I think this is one of them things, man, where you can do a video similar to that concept and just really go with it, bro.
Yeah, I actually did a video for this, man. I didn't really push it like that, but you know, I actually have a video out for this. It's on my YouTube and all that. Champion DNA.
I like that. There's something that was said in there, I think in the little blurb you had in there, something about a mind being made up. And of course we're talking about dreaming big and, you know, accomplishing big dreams according to what the Lord has deposited, man. So we're gonna switch up the convo a little bit, because I understand you got a story like we all do, and something of course took place in your life that got you to this point. So for our listeners that are listening and those that are clearly at that place where they're giving up and, you know, their mind is just being attacked by doubt, fear, insecurity. All month I've been focusing on J-Baz and how, you know, he made up his mind. Like, look, you know, I'm tired of struggling like this. I'm tired of just going through the same old motion, man. God, I need my territory to be enlarged, and I need you to bless me and keep me from harm. So, you know, tell us your story, bro. What got you to this point? Because I know you ain't always been doing gospel, and you haven't always been doing what you're doing now. So, how'd you make up your mind and what got you to this point?
Yeah, I don't mind at all, man. Well, my story, I come from the streets of Brooklyn, New York, man, and growing up in Bed-Stuy, it was rough. And, I didn't really have my mom kind of guiding me in the right way, and I didn't have my dad even present. My dad, he was present, early on, but he got locked up when I was like 7 years old, right before my 8th birthday. And, he ended up spending 15 years in prison. And so I just kind of came up and just being raised by secular hip hop, by the streets, by my peers, and they were all, going the wrong way as well. And I did have a grandmother who was a Christian, and she did pray for me and try to guide me as best she can from a distance. But and I actually did live under her care for some years as well. And I think that seeds were planted then. It didn't really show much at that time, but I ended up getting in trouble when I was 19 for a robbery charge, man. And flat out guilty, man. I was down in Charlotte, North Carolina, got locked up, and it was at that point in my life where I realized, like, this is not what I want for myself. And I made a commitment then to serve God. I gave my life to Him. I didn't have an altar experience. I had in my cell on my knees, with tears in my eyes, and I was just like, God, I want better for myself. Like I want to be restored. I want to be forgiven more than anything. And I think I realized how bad I was as a person. And it was at that moment, man, that God began to transform my life. And it wasn't instantaneous. But I think that the heart of me saying, like, I want to do God's work. I want to follow Him. I'm committing to studying and prayer and walking with God. Like, I think that happened in an instant. But, I still had a lot of bad habits and shortcomings that God had to work through and work out of me. And to make a long story short, man, I spent 3.5 years in prison. When I got out, I was a completely different person. Like, I don't even think I looked the same to people, you know what I mean? And I just came home, healthy and just ready to do what God called me to do. Because while I was in prison, He began to reveal to me, what He wanted to do and how He wanted to do it. And music was definitely one of the things that, that stuck with me. And so I had kind of stopped doing music, and then God, asked me to pick it back up. And so, here it is. Been to Bible college and serving at the church that I'm a part of now, and just doing, music how God leads me to do it. But that's pretty much how it all, took place.
Man, for those of y'all listening, God is still in the business of transformation, man. He's in the business of changing stories, man, and flipping your whole script. Just when you thought you were headed the wrong direction, God allowed a certain amount of circumstances and things to happen that completely alter your course. And, of course, I study in terms of the word today. It comes out of the book of Genesis, because there was a guy who was known as the dreamer. You know what I mean? This dude, Joseph. Joseph was as a young man at 17, the Lord gave him a humongous dream, and his family doubted it, and his father, his father was like a little skeptical about the kid, and his brothers, of course, hated him. And we know the story. The young man went from being the most beloved in his family, having a coat of favor, to ended up in the pit, and then from the pit, just when he thought it was all good, ends up in Potiphar's house, and then Potiphar's wife lies on him, and he ends up in prison, and then ultimately we see the fulfillment of the dream, come forth for where he ends up in the palace as second in command in Egypt. But here's the part of the entire story that I believe really jumps out at me, and I think if I'm listening to your story now, this reminds me, and anybody out there who has a story of redemption, and it's found in Genesis 50 verse 20, where at the end of everything, when Joseph encounters his brothers and the conversation, they're repenting and they're saying sorry, and they're thinking, man, this dude gonna get us because we did all these things to him. He said, as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today. So in essence, Joseph was saying, look, all of the things that I went through, even though you had a part to play, even though the negative aspects of it wasn't fun, because it ain't nothing fun about being locked up, you know. nothing exciting about taking L's and being lied on and all these things, but ultimately perspective. You know, Joseph, at the end of the day, he understood that the dream that I first of all got wasn't even about me. You know what I mean? The trials that I went through wasn't even about me. The situation that I experienced wasn't even about me. It was all about God getting the glory and for the good of my family. And so if you look at your story, how does that apply to your story in a practical sense? Looking at the fact that you did 3 years, you know what I mean? You lost all this time, you know, all these things with your parents and whatever the case is. You know, how can you, somebody going through that same exact struggle, how can you encourage them in a practical sense?
I know for me, right? Matter of fact, somebody the other day asked me, they said, because they didn't know that I went to prison. They was like, you went to prison? And I was like, yeah. After 3.5 years. And I was like, it was the worst and best years of my life. You know, best 3 years of my life. And so it was one of those situations where I hated being away from my family, being away from my loved ones, you know, calling, you know, during the holidays and everyone is around and you're passing the phone around. Like, I hated that, you know what I mean, not being there. But it gave me time to be away from the world and away from ungodly influence. Not to say that there's not that in prison, but I was able to kind of focus in and let God wash me, you know what I mean? And just spend time with him and allow him to reignite. Because I had dreams. I ain't gonna say I didn't have. I had dreams. I had big dreams before I went to prison, but it was all just to do the wrong thing and to blow up for the wrong reason. And you know what I'm saying? So when I got locked up, it's like everything has shattered. I was like, man, I'm never gonna be able to do that again. I'm never gonna be able to become anybody. But it was like God began to reveal my true identity and his dream for my life. You know what I'm saying? And I was able to be, you know, reborn and renewed, restored with the God dream. You know what I mean? And was able to come out knowing that, man, if it had not been for this, I probably would have still been out in the streets, you know, running around. I probably would have got locked up for something more dangerous. You know what I'm saying? Right. And so, you know, I thank God for those 3.5 years to sit me down so he can get my attention.
You said it right there. Get your attention, because a lot of times we're going 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction, and we're expecting things to go right, and you know we're just on a highway to hell, like the song say. So God's grace is sufficient. My goodness. So let me ask you this, Chaz. I know quite often folks got this whole, this whole blurb about CHH and all these, labeling of the kind of music you do. When folks see you as an artist, do they consider you a quote unquote Christian hip hop artist, a rap artist? How do folks identify you as a musician?
Honestly, man, I embrace both sides of it. I think I'm probably more of an advocate for those who are Christian and they're using their talent to, take care of their families. It's an occupation. It's a job for them. And, some people, it's a ministry for them. And I feel like we need both. And I feel like I represent both sides. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that I'm more one than the other. And I think a lot of people see me as both. You got some people, I got some, fans. I have fans who are not Christian, but they like it. They like my music. I even have a Muslim guy, man, that he's a big supporter of mine. And I mean, I don't know what God, like the plan God has for his life yet. But I know, man, when I first gave him my CD, I slipped it on him. And, he saw me again. He was like, yo, man, I like it. He was like, I really liked it a lot. He said, I ain't gonna lie, you slipped that one in on me. He said, he was like, I didn't know you was a Christian, until I really listened to the music. But he had rock with me for my heart and, me just being a genuine person. And so I didn't try to force it on him, but I did slip it on him. And he was like, man, it was like listening to, it was like, I'm jamming, I'm rocking with it. And he said it was like somebody, like how you do a kid when you give them vegetables, like you sneak the vegetables in the food. You know what I'm saying? And then, next thing you know, they're like, oh, snap, I'm eating vegetables. And so that's how he felt like he was riding with it. He was like, oh, snap, I'm jamming to Christian artists, you know what I mean? And so, you know, and I love that side. I love being able to do that. But I also love being able to be able to, you know, minister through lyrics as well, and people be able to hear my story and really see, like, man, this guy is someone that God has really touched and changed. And, you know, he's actually using his gift for God's glory. And I want that for my life, you know what I mean? And be able to inspire people to follow their God-given dream, you know what I mean? So I get a little bit of both, man. I get a little bit of both with people looking at me like, yo, you're a Christian rapper, and I got some people like, yo, mate, you're a hip-hop artist. But I can tell you have Christian roots, you know. So, you know, I think it's kind of like reading the word, man. Like, some people might get one translation out of a text, and someone else might get another interpretation, you know what I mean? But, you know, to God be the glory.
That's it. And the reason why I bring that up, because a lot of times folks' motives for dreaming big can be some type, you know, it can be self-centered. It can be about me being an icon versus God's will and God's kingdom being established in the earth. And so it's important to keep that in perspective, especially for a lot of these young artists and young men and women out here who have the gift, man. They got the talent, but it's just a lack of direction. There's a lack of understanding of why you have this dream. And that's, if we look at the story of Joseph, that's exactly what happened, because from the onset, this dude was excited, going around blurbing to his dad and mom, look, you guys are going to bow down to me, and I got the interpretation. I know what's going on as a young man, you know, and that brought him a lot of heat. That brought him a whole lot of heat. And so if you don't understand why you do what you do, you know, granted, what people label you understand the why. That's which is most important. You got to remember the why. And so I think you said it right when you said, look, you know, a label is a label, bruh. At the end of the day, you can call an apple what you want to call it, but it's still an apple based on the seed it carries. So that's the word right there.
One thing that really gets me is, I talked about it before with different brothers, man, but in the Bible, Stephen was pretty much like a deacon, you know what I mean? But he kind of like, he didn't have the title of an apostle, but the man went above and beyond, you know, the call of duty, you know what I mean? He was just called to be a deacon, but they said, you know, he did many, you know, miracles, and even when he died like an apostle, you know what I'm saying? And so, you know, I think sometimes we get caught up in a label, but you don't need the label to function and be who God called you to be. You know what I'm saying?
You don't say that one more time for those listening. You don't need the label to function. Just be what God has called you to be.
You don't need the label, man. Just be true to who God called you to be, and you can be at peace with that. You know what I mean?
Right. Totally agree. So I'm gonna switch it up a little bit here, fam. You know, what would you say? Because I know all of this takes time, it takes energy, and you know, based on what you're telling me, you work a full-time job, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you find time?
I mean, it was a time where I wanted to do more music, and I just didn't have the funds. I didn't have the money to invest. I had a family. I had just got married. Had a child, my first child, and I just didn't have it to put into it. But what I did, writing is free. You know, all I need is a little bit of time. I can lay down and write, or, you know, sit at the table and write. So I always kept writing, even when I didn't have the finances to put behind, you know, the things that I thought God called me to do. I stayed faithful in that area, and that's a part of keeping your dream alive. Like, you know, you can have a big dream and you're dreaming big, but, you know, sometimes you might not have the finances. You might be missing some of the resources that you need to do the big thing that you're dreaming about. But there's always some things you can do that's free, like research, study, you know. But I always kept writing, even when I didn't have the money to record. And so when I did get the money to record, I had a bunch of material that was ready, you know what I mean? And so, I guess I was investing in myself then. You know, it's not always monetary. And so I had a big dream, and I stayed with it, man, even when I didn't have, you know, the resources to fund it.
A lot of times folks feel like, well, I don't have to push or pursue this thing because I don't have the money, not yet. Well, that's that season where God is really seeing if you bought this dream that he's deposited in you, really. Because if you're not willing to invest your time and you're willing to spend time, I heard somebody say it one day, you know, we got to be investors of our time and not time spenders. Because you can do two things. You can invest to increase what you have the opportunity to do, or you can spend and get no return. You know, it's funny. I had a little youth group conversation last week, man, and we're talking about Matthew 25, where, you know, the Lord, the masters gave one guy 5 talents, gave another guy 2, and gave another guy 1. Well, we understand that God with the 5 went ahead and immediately went out and invested that 5 and got 5 more back. The guy with 2 did the same and got a return, but the guy with 1, instead of investing the time to go about doing the master's business and at least make 2 out of that, he decided to bury that dream. He decided to bury that talent. And when the master came back, man, what did he say to him? He called you wicked, lazy. So that's important. I like the fact that you said you kept writing, and you know, in spite of the fact you may not have had the funds to pursue the dream and to make things happen, you kept grinding, you kept working, and I think that's important, because in that there's growth. In that you're being prepared for what's greater. I think you mentioned David earlier in the one song, and David didn't become Goliath killer overnight. That dude was practicing on bears and lions. So let's talk about, in terms of your preparation, man, over the last couple of years, how do you feel God has been preparing you for where you are now?
I think, man, like, I know for one aspect, like, you know, I talked about, you know, going to prison and stuff like that. And, you know, it was a time when people would not give me a job, you know, like, and if I could get a job, it was always something, it wasn't like a husband job, you know what I mean? It wasn't something I could take care of my family with. And, you know, I would always be like, man, I'm not making enough money. And so it kind of forced me to be an entrepreneur. You know, I've always had an entrepreneur heart, even from a kid, you know, even from the street life. But, you know, I used to cry up to God, like, man, I just want to be able to get a job. I just want to land something. But I always had a grind, and I would always, like, you know, my music, my clothing brand, my ideas, I would push it, and people would support it. And so that was like God was providing for me through that. And it kind of, like, you know, over time, it kind of built me up as an entrepreneur. So now, man, you know, they couldn't pay me to get a job, you know, to work for someone. I'm not against it. I'm not against someone who works for people. But it's just that I've been conditioned as an entrepreneur, and have found ways to survive and provide for my family off of my music and my brand, that, you know, it's just not, you know, now one thing I used to cry about, you know, well, now when I get job offers, I'm like, nah, I'm okay, man. I appreciate it though, you know. And so I think that over time, those years of, you know, of having a grind and just make it happen and make do with what I had, it kind of developed me as an entrepreneur. And I think that's the direction that, you know, God is calling me to go, you know, to be an entrepreneur and be full-time in it, you know. And so, you know, yeah, man.
Wow. So what's coming up next for you, man? We got a few more minutes here left in the show. You know, what are some things to look forward to from you, sir?
Definitely some more music, some more videos this year. And also too, man, I'm at a church, and my pastor is kind of been talking to me about kind of grooming me. He wants to do like a program where, I think he already started it last year, but he didn't put me in it last year, but this year he said I'm going to be a part of it. He's just kind of grooming ministers within the church. And I'm definitely going to be doing some more, you know, I would say traditional type of ministry. But I'm not putting the mic down, man. I'm still gonna be doing more music, but you know, my pastor has already confirmed with me that he's gonna be kind of doing me for kind of more of a pulpit type of deal. And so, yeah, man, definitely gonna look out for that. But I plan to put out some more videos this year. I got a few more ideas. I got some songs that I put together, and I just want to put some visuals to. I got a video that I just did this past Saturday with my family. We're getting ready to sell my grandmother's house, and she passed away almost 2 years ago. And the song is called Family Reunion. It's actually on my album. My album is out, you know, now. You can go get that. Keep the Dream Alive. Just search me all platforms. It's not on iTunes yet, but by the time you probably hear this, it'll be on iTunes. But everywhere else is there. But one of the songs in this is called Family Reunion. And me and my family, we came together during the estate sale and just kind of shot a video with just us kind of passing out, a little cookout and just laughing, joking, just playing together. And so I'm gonna be putting that video out real soon. But yeah, just more life, more more what God wants me to do, man. Just trying to just put the message out, on God's goodness and motivation, and just inspiring other people to keep going.
That's dope. Well, we almost at the end here, bro. And normally we like to put our artists on the spot, so we call this the moment of Blaze, man. Give me a quick 16 or so before we let the show end right here, bro.
Okay. Put me on the spot. They say nothing good come out of Nazareth. I say nothing good comes to the blasphemous. I'm just a Lazarus jumping off of the porch. Resurrection said, come forth to my corpse. See, we all got heroes, but heroes, peep though. That last line was threefold. The rose that grows from the concrete. Palm leaves on the road of his bronze feet. The thorns made bloodshed from his crown. Got me thinking about the thorns and the sweat of the brow. Bow down to Father God, the Godfather. How Satan get a skull crushed on Golgotha. Key to life, Jesus Christ, see the light. I hope this message gets in your ear like Peter's knife. The greatest weakness is man kicked out of eating for not eating right. His death on the tree is the new tree of life.
You got my face stuck here, bruh. That's that, jumped off the porch like who? Lazarus? What? We're coming back to life on him now. That's hot, man. That's hot. Brother, we appreciate you, man. Thank you for taking this time, on this cold, snowy Wednesday to just be a blessing to us and allow us to experience your ministry and, and to enjoy what the Lord is doing in and through your life, fam. I mean, it's been such a privilege just having you, join us today and share. Is there any last word you want to give our folks before we go? Because I do want to play this original track for Keep the Dream Alive before we wrap it up. Is there anything else, any word of encouragement before we go?
I mean, just keep the dream alive, That's like my mantra right now. Like whatever God has placed in your heart, go for it, Don't wait till all the ducks are in the row. Just get started, you know what I mean? Like when I first started giving my CDs out, all I had was a disc. I didn't have a case. I was right on the disc. Now, I'm not recommending that you just go and do it that way, and I'm not saying you're supposed to do it, half-hearted, but get started where you're at and be faithful with little. God will make you rule over much. And so I just say keep the dream alive. Go get the album. All the motivation you need is all in there. You can find it anywhere, everywhere. Keep the dream alive. And my name is CHAZ HOFLER. You can find me on all social sites.
And that's CHAZHOFLER, people. Check out the brothers. Support good music, hope music that'll change lives. And don't just get yourself a copy. Get it for somebody that needs Jesus. You heard the man himself say it. Everybody's banging to it. So, it's definitely a blessing. Great music. And of course, we don't end the show without making an invitation that if you've never had an encounter with the Lord, you don't know him as your Lord and Savior, and you're at a place where you need to make that decision. Stop whatever you're doing now, whether you're driving. I'm not saying stop in the middle of traffic, but you know what I'm saying. Stop and just acknowledge Jesus as your Lord and Savior, today, because you never know what tomorrow has for you, man. And at the end of the day, your life is worth more than anything you've ever struggled for here on earth. So with that being said, that's the end of our show. My name is Pastor V. You heard it first here on the ABLAZIN Gospel Show. My man CHAZ HOFLER, Keep the Dream Alive. We're going to hear this track. We're going to end on this track, Keep the Dream Alive, and then God bless you. We'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Morning feeling awesome. Today is looking gorgeous. Let me try paint a portrait. Looking forward to the sport toss, breaking down on us. Let's talk to the mechanic, tell him how we can't afford it. Lost my wallet in the mall, calling up the office. Hope nobody stole it, Lord. I pray somebody's honest. Then the office called me back, told me a custodian had saw it, turned it in and come and get it if I want it. Awesome. I see my $10 cash. Awesome. There's that 10 for that gas. Awesome. I still took a loss, but I didn't, but I did. Guess it is what it is, but it isn't. And that's just how the story goes. See, life is like a box of Oreos, and that's how the cookie crumbles. At least you get the cream, little things on the road to a much bigger dream. What up? Woke up this morning feeling nauseous. Could've sworn she was nauseous the day before this, as I recall it. And fast forward, I had a dream I had a daughter, but the sonogram say I got a boy, I can't call it. Great time for my job to lay me off. In fact, I got a child on the way, that ain't important. Cause I get blessed with a car back rolling. First week I get a ticket, traffic court. Hey y'all. The judge gave me a pass. Awesome. By the way, my son name is CHAZ, HOFLER. Please don't call him Junior, it's different. He's a second, so technically he is, but he isn't. That's how the wheel of fortune rolls. I know my future, I don't need your horoscope, but if the fortune cookie crumbles, it's paper in between little things that remind me of a much bigger dream. What up?
Dream.